What's up, everybody out there in the podcast-overse? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Today's guest is drummer Jerry Mazzuca of St. Louis powerhouse Prog Quartet, The Gorge. Their new record, Mechanical Fiction, caught my attention, and I was immediately interested in talking to Jerry about his drumming in the band. So in addition to that, we also touched on him being a professional musician and the whole gig life world, the long process of releasing Mechanical Fiction, as well as a gig at an Anarchist Convent. You'll hear it. It's a good one. In any case, today's episode is sponsored by OneUpLoops.com. Drummer, producer, and more Carson Gann and his team spent an incredible amount of time recording over 430 shaker, tambourine, and hi-hat loops at every possible tempo in multiple fields with incredible mics and outboard gear for you to pick and choose. It's organized for you to find exactly what you need with just a few clicks, and everything feels and sounds incredible. You can sign up for free and check it out and gain full access to all said 430,000 loops starting at just $6 a month. No download limits, whatever you want, whenever you want. New loops, one-shots, and drum breaks will be added weekly. Definitely a great addition to the arsenal of any drummer and or producer, and having used it myself, I can certainly vouch for that. Check it out at OneUpLoops.com. This very podcast you're listening to, i.e. Crash Bang Boom Podcast, can be found where all podcasts are found, rather than mention them all. And if you like what you hear, please check out any of the previous 270-plus episodes and double high fives. You can give me a like, a subscription, and or a positive review. Any Housers. Without further ado, Jerry Mazzuca, The Gorge, Mechanical Fiction, St. Louis in the fucking house. Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy. Give the drum a tone. Yes!
All right, I'm here with Jerry Mazzuca of The Gorge. Jerry, what's happening, dude?
Hey, man, what's happening with you?
Just hanging, trying to tune up some drums, getting the drum fleet together. I got a big room where I can set up. I could set up probably all four kits if I really wanted to, but I've at least got the two set up and just kind of rolling through different heads and trying to get the tuning straight and just geeking out on sounds, mics, gear shit.
Gear shit, man. Love it.
You got it. I don't know if anyone's told this. I can't imagine that they haven't, but then again, I don't know what kind of people you hang out with, but assuming they're MMA fans or just fight fans, be it boxing or mixed martial arts, clearly the front runner for your fighting moniker would have to be Jerry the Bazooka Mazzuca. You got to say like Bruce Buffer,
Take me right back to 5th grade with that.
That's it. I knew it. I was like, there's no way that he didn't hear this. That was...
Whole life, man.
That makes way more sense. Well, congratulations on the new Gorge record, Mechanical Fiction. I had a friend of mine, and y'all are on Pelagic, right? We can talk about that.
Pelagic.
Yeah,
totally.
So I was in a band called Family, and we put out a record on there.
Wait, Family?
Yeah. I drummed on the record Future History off of.
We played a show with Family, but like 2014 or 13 or some shit way back in the day.
I had just stopped playing in the band. Was it a tour? Because I only played a handful, very few.
It would have been in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. I was not on that.
No, you wouldn't have been in St. Louis. Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been super strange. Because the guy who recommended y'all to me I was in Family with him, Steve Gordon, who kind of procured that whole like Pelagic deal and was friends with the Ocean guys and everything. So there's that mutual connection. But my buddy Kurt, who was the vocalist on that record, reminds me so much of the vocalist in your band.
Oh, okay.
I'll send you Future History so you can hear him. But there's a distinct like correlation there. It's pretty bizarre.
Awesome. Sweet. Love it.
Yeah, man. But again, dude, congrats on it. When he sent it to me, I was like, yeah, this is right up my alley. Y'all kind of remind me of like, are you familiar with Laser Wolf out of Atlanta? Because those are buds as well.
Yeah, Laser Wolf is awesome.
Yeah, y'all got some killer like Intronaut, Laser Wolf kind of jams happening.
Intronaut buddies, yep. Yeah, anytime Intronaut comes into St. Louis, we find a way to end up on the show.
Oh, nice. That makes perfect sense.
Totally.
Hell yeah, man.
Love them.
Well, let's start with like, when did the band start? I think if I saw right, y'all's first record was like 2011-ish. So I'm assuming y'all like the band formed around then. Yeah, like, but like, when did the band start?
Totally, man. Yeah, we're 09 is when we started, and all of us grew up together. So we went from like middle school and high school. We have like a ton of history. So that ends up being pretty rad when you're in a band and trying to write, and generally we get along and are on the same page with a lot of shit. I mean, 20 plus years, right?
Right.
So but yeah, we had like a new metal band called Dead by Tuesday.
There you go.
Started in like 2002.
Oh yeah, appropriate name for the time, I would say.
Absolutely, man. That's like your Seven Dust, like Mudvayne style, like what you're into whenever you're 18 or 19.
Right.
And it's the early 2000s. But
exactly.
Yeah, the Gorge 2009. Yeah, and man, it's hard to believe that it's been this long, because we just kind of just keep going, man. Like, we're kind of one of those, we don't put out an album a year, obviously, because we have 3 LPs in 15 years.
Yeah.
But we're all musicians, and it's just what we do, and just keep rolling, man.
When you say you're musicians, are you a professional musician outside? I know you talked earlier about playing in a wedding band, so
yeah.
Are you able to sustain yourself with this wild beast that is music and musicianship?
I am very fortunate to have a wife that has a decent job.
There you go. That's crucial.
Crucial. But to answer that question, before we were married, for like almost a decade before we got married, I did support myself with music, and it's like the classic working musician thing, man. Wedding gigs, jazz gigs, basically anything that you could possibly be hired for. I just made sure that I was like prepared to get that call.
Right.
And like again, it's not like financially glamorous,
right?
But I get to do the thing I want to do, and yeah, no reservations about that.
Absolutely.
Meet someone that has a good gig always helps. So
always helps.
Shout out to the significant others with solid gigs.
I hear you, dude. Well, if we're spacing it out, it was about probably 6 years or so since the previous record, 1,000 Year Fire. So
yeah,
I guess was that time sort of spent just writing everything for that? There were breaks, and then life happens, and then you got work and other gigs, so it just took a while to write it. And it's not like the material is super straightforward either. So
right. Yeah, I mean, Mechanical Fiction, I recorded the drums in June of 2018.
Wow, really?
No fucking joke.
You recorded the drums 5 years ago?
I know. Isn't that insane?
Wow.
I mean, it's fucking wild to even think about. Sometimes I'm like, Jesus Christ, really? But it's what happened, man. And we've always been like a 2 to 4 years between records kind of band.
Yeah.
But this one happened, man. We started in 2018. By the end of like 2019, we're through like the tracking, and we're like kind of starting to mix. And then obviously early 2020, of course, pandemic. And that just like, especially with a lot of us being working musicians, all of our work stopped. We had to we basically just took a break for a year and a half, like a lot of people did.
Right.
It just put the just total brakes on the whole thing, which was already way late.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So, but then, finally we picked it back up in 2022. We had it done mid 2022. Of course, this gets into the Pelagic connection. I don't know if you want to get into that at this point.
Yeah, go for it.
That's actually a cool story, man. Like, we played, I was mentioning to you, my dude Ray Marte, shout out Ray.
What up, Moontooth?
And Intronaut, we played with Intronaut, Entheos, and Moontooth in St. Louis in 2016.
Okay.
And Sasha Dunable grabbed like a clip of us playing, and he posted it. And then Robin Stapps from The Ocean saw that.
Oh, crazy.
And this is in 2016.
Right.
Robin reaches out to us, and he's like, hey, do you guys want to come on do this like 2 weeks with us on the West Coast? We were like, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
And it was super rad, man. Like, and at one point he like sat us down and was like, basically said, hey, if you guys are serious about this thing, and if you don't mind being on the road a lot, we'd love to have you on the label. And, we got like families, and, we got like some tight connections to St. Louis. We weren't prepared to be like, yeah, we can get out on the road a ton. And we just basically needed to talk about it. Right. Go home, talking to significant others and stuff. And we're just like, maybe we'll hold off just for the moment. It was very flattering for him to be like, hey, we're into it. But anyway, things happen. You lose touch. a couple of years later, pandemic, blah, blah, blah. All this shit happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, fast forward to 2022 in like the summer, we're holding Mechanical Fiction in our hands, basically. Like we have the whole thing done. And we're like, wait a minute, you know what we should do? Like just off the cuff. We're like, let's reach out to Robin with the Ocean and let's just show it to him.
Right.
Like we hadn't even thought about that. And we've never been on a label either. We're self-produced and self-done from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we send him an email and he's like, yeah, fuck, man. How you guys doing? Yeah, shoot it over. Let's have a listen. And after he listens to it, he gets back to us and he's like, yes, we want this.
That's awesome.
I was like, that's fucking cool. And we're like, man, we're still like, I got a kid now.
Yeah.
And like, we're like, man, I don't know how much touring we can do. Like, he's like, you know what? That's normally a deal breaker for us with this label, but we want this record on the roster.
Yeah.
Period. He's like, we're not going to mandate that you guys are doing a lot of touring. We just want to put this thing out.
Yeah.
And we were like, fuck, sweet. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So finally, 40 years old, finally get signed to my first label. It's like, you dream about that shit when you're 16 and 17, but
right.
A little different now, but that was how that came to be and how we came to get signed, with Pelagic. So it was pretty cool. It was just kind of just a whim one day after having it finally done. And then they had to hold it off because getting a vinyl pressed, of course, these days takes like 9 to 12 months.
Right.
So it's August of 2022. And he's like, well, can't put it out like next month because can't have a vinyl by then. So then we're like, well, shit, we've waited 4 years. Might as well make it 5.
Right.
So there it is. And then boom, July 28th, we finally got to deliver it to the world 5 years after its recording, not even its inception. So
wow.
Long story long. There you go.
Dude, I think I'll have to go back and look when I recorded the drums for the Family Future History record, but that too was the longest for me. I think it was 3 years, but there wasn't a pandemic.
Right.
So
right.
I was like, wow, this is, and then when it came out, it just felt like an eternity ago.
Yeah.
At that point, I wasn't playing in the band. What's interesting for you is like you recorded them so far back, you had to put your drum parts together, go in, do it. And then 5 years later, it's released and you're listening to it. Were there moments where you were wishing that you would have done something else and or were already totally doing something different?
Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to say 90% of the record is just the same way that I play it now, but there are for sure some things. I got some of my double kick stuff together a little better than I had then. And I'm doing some stuff now where I'm like, that would have been cool if I had that on the record, but fuck, it was 2018. What are you going to do?
Absolutely.
So to answer that question, for sure.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Yet another correlation with the Ocean, when they came, it would have been probably 2012, maybe 2013. They played St. Vitus. Again, my band Family, we played with them.
Yeah.
And if you go back and look at the video footage of the Ocean at St. Vitus, their drummer Luke Hess, who I've also had on the podcast, I talked to him about it when I interviewed him. He is playing my Clear Vistalite kit that got lost in shipping. Only the bass drum showed up. They lost all the toms when the shipping company moved us from New York to, at the time, we had moved to Salt Lake City in October of 2020.
Oh, man.
And everything showed up, but only the bass drum showed up. But so it's funny, like there's some video of me playing it, but one of the videos that I probably am more interested in even seeing is actually him playing it because he's such a badass drummer.
Dude, yeah.
And it's cool like hearing him and seeing him playing this drum set that I no longer have, not because I sold it, but because a shipping company lost it.
Oh, shit, man. That's ridiculous.
Completely ridiculous.
Pretty wild, man.
When it came time to actually record the drums, where did y'all do it? And were you, it sounds like you were well rehearsed enough to like go in, but even then I've been well rehearsed and like drilled the things that I thought I would stumble upon, only to go into the studio and stumble upon the things that I thought for sure that I had nailed down.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't know. What was your experience recording it?
Yeah, it was cool, man. We did it at Encapsulated Studios here in St. Louis. A bud, Gabe Ussery, engineered and mixed it.
Nice.
And he's a drummer, awesome drummer, and he's got just a great ear for sounds. Yeah, man, like I said, we knocked the drums out in like 10 hours, so it was like a day plus a couple hours.
Damn.
Boom, boom. And we opted to, you have a lot of options, obviously, for mixing. We decided to sample my own kit as opposed to go to like a sample library.
Nice.
Just to tighten it up. And also at the time, I kind of go back and forth on this, man. Sometimes I'll hear some of these like real pristine records that are coming out, and I'm like, God, that drum sound is the most clear, perfect thing possible. And sometimes I wish that like our record sounded like that, but then
Nah.
yeah, man, because like then I'll listen to it. It grew on me, I guess is what I'm saying over time. At first, I was like, it's a little dirtier, it's a little, but then I'm like, that's what it is, though. It's a
Right.
sample of my own kit. These are my tones and my sounds, and it has become something that I appreciate more over time. Because I even think when I listen to it myself, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound exactly like anything else. And I think some metal records come out, and you're like, that is that from my Superior Drummer pack or.
I think you could say most of them at this point, especially within some of the like specific like subgenres.
Yeah, man, exactly. So I'm kind of happy about that. The way that he mixed that down and the way we did it, pretty rad. So yeah, it ended up being something pretty neat, I think.
Nice, man. So if you knocked the drums out in just a day and a half or whatever, like back in 2018, how much longer was the process of just getting guitar, bass, and vocals beyond that? Like when were y'all done at least tracking it?
I feel sorry for our vocalist, Phil, sometimes because the vocals, by the way, he did an insane job and sounds amazing.
Yeah, sounds great.
But that's just super hard. He's not like, he hasn't been a vocalist, for as long as he's been in metal band. He actually became the vocalist for the Gorge. We had our first LP was a different vocalist.
Okay.
And then after he left the band, we were like looking around and trying to decide. And then Phil's like, you know what? I'm just going to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And that was like 2013 or so.
Wow.
So, I mean, and he has like progressed his vocal ability a ton, but that's all to say. I remember that one of the things that made it tough to do quickly is that he had to condition his vocal cords.
Absolutely.
Take after take after take. We had to take some time so he could get his shit right again and then come back. And, obviously everybody's picky and shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guitar tone sounds great right now. And then like 3 weeks later listening, I'm kind of calling my guitar players out. Sorry, guys. You're like, actually that wasn't so hot. I think we could do better.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was one of those moments where you're like, maybe if there were a producer on this, we would have had it done in half the time, but left to our own devices.
Of course. Yeah.
How it goes, man. Right. So
absolutely.
But anyway, to answer your question, though, I believe it was I want to say about a year or so to track.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then you start thinking about mixing and
of course,
and pandemic and blah, 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 all that shit. Man.
Yeah. Wow.
So
crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of wild, man. It's kind of wild.
Damn.
But here we are on the other side and we're stoked on it. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, it sounds great. Great
Thanks,
record,
man.
for sure. When did you start playing, I guess, and who were like, so you mentioned sort of the early influences, at least in those like new metal bands.
Yeah.
How long or prior to that did you start playing, and who were you sort of digging at the time?
Yeah, man. Fortunate. My old man was an incredible drummer.
Okay.
So, I mean, he was fucking awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, like I have one of my most prized possessions is a recording of my dad in 1975, and he's 19, and he playing jazz, just fucking killing. I mean, he
Really?
sounds better than I ever will in my life at
Really?
19.
Wow.
Not kidding you. Oh, dude, tearing it up. Are you familiar? Have you heard of the Ray Kennedy and Tom Kennedy? Do those names mean anything to you by chance?
I don't know that they do.
Okay, so they're jazz dudes primarily. Tom Kennedy's a bass player, like a virtuosic bass player now. Plays with Dave Weckl in his
Okay,
band.
of course, yeah.
So he's Dave Weckl's bass player.
That makes sense.
And like everybody else in the world.
Right.
My dad was in a band with those two guys in the 70s when they were kids. I mean, they were 19.
Wow.
Tom Kennedy's 14 playing like fretless electric. They
Damn.
were just a burning trio, man, playing. But anyway, that's that part of it. And so I grew up with being very fortunate having him around and kind of getting me going and started. And I have like this duality of like the jazz side of me and the rock and like metal side of me.
Right.
Because like I had these things going on in my entire life, like deep into the jazz part. I went to school for jazz performance, but like
crazy.
I've always also been into the rock and metal thing.
Yeah.
So just like boom, like from the beginning, from the time I was like hitting on, like everybody says hitting on pots and pans, literally did it. 8 years old probably is when I started showing like some interest.
Yeah.
And probably by 10 or 11, I'm actually on the kit and like playing around and shit. And I kind of knew I had a pretty good idea early on that that's what I wanted to do.
I bet. Where'd you go to school for studying jazz?
I went to SIU Edwardsville, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville.
Okay.
Studied with an insane drummer here in St. Louis named Miles Vanderveer.
Okay.
He's one of those assholes that's left-handed but grew up on a right-handed kit.
Oh.
So he plays permanently open-handed.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
just like, fuck, man. And it's such a great advantage. Like, I'm jealous as shit. But he taught me for years in college, also just like a mentor on the kit. And he got me my first like real gig in college. So that dude's a real one. And he's like unbelievably pro.
Yeah.
I mean, he can sound like Steve Gadd like in the studio if he wants to, and then he can sound like Bill Stewart swinging.
Yep.
And then he can sound like Stuart Copeland. I mean, like he could. Yeah. I mean, seriously, dude could do it all. So
that's awesome.
Shout out to Miles Vanderveer.
Yeah, I started in like marching band, and then got in like this talented music program, and then like jazz band. But like jazz band in high school was pretty lame, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And then I studied jazz sort of in theory via lessons for 3 years or so, but never really. Every now and then again, I'd sit in on a jazz gig. I kind of got more into like the Afro-Cuban Brazilian stuff,
Sure.
just with the independence involved in it was cool. But then again, it's not like I ever played any like Latin gigs or Latin jazz or Brazilian or,
Yeah.
So it's sort of embedded somewhat in my playing, but not to the extent that I developed it on gigs, which
Totally.
which is a different thing. Like, I've had people say, like, you sound kind of jazzy when you play, and I'm like, I must have like played somewhat of a jazz pattern on my ride during a groove of some kind. So that in and of itself, maybe within the context of heavier music, sounds jazzy.
Totally.
I'm assuming
that's funny, man.
That's what they're referencing. I don't know, because I would definitely not call myself a jazz player at all.
Sure. Hey, man, it's all good, but like, it still comes through in some way, shape, or form. You check out all that stuff. It comes into your playing, whether you like consciously think about it or not, right?
Right.
Like those influences are just there intrinsically.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the shit right there.
Totally.
But it's funny you mentioned jazz. It's funny. We're like, all of us in the Gorge, man, we're like very much like just as much into like heavy shit as we are into jazz shit. But it's hilarious that like with this record, like the first thing that came out press release wise was like, oh, these 4 jazz musicians that are playing metal.
I thought I even read that, and I was like, really? Are they?
That just proliferated around every single time we read a review or something. Listen to these jazz musicians play metal.
Jazz guys.
Motherfucker. Like, dude, I was listening to Tool's Opiate before I like listened to any Miles Davis. So
right.
Like that was like my first introduction to heavy music. It's
yeah.
Like, Tool Opiate, like Danny Carey, blowing my mind at like 9 years old, man. So
of course,
but it is just funny how that goes, and I get why too, because we do play that shit. So
that's wild. So the other guys literally do also play like jazz gigs as well. All 4 of you?
Yeah, yeah. So Joe, the lead singer Phil is a ridiculous jazz guitar player, and
okay,
all the metal shit, and he could sit down and play like any jazz gig.
Wow.
Kinda like Dave Davidson from Revocation is
right.
like kind of like that. Like Dave could play any jazz gig, and also there he is with Revocation.
Yeah.
So Phil kind of has like that kind of vibe going on. Chris on bass, same exact way. Like the dude could play anything. If he plays upright bass, he's just like swinging his ass off, and you're like, well, shit, that's a really talented dude.
Damn.
Joe is more self-taught, but he's like the rock of the band. Sorry, Joe doesn't have a jazz degree.
Right.
Loser. No,
Yeah.
he is honestly, but Joe is he's like the rock, man. His natural ability and like it's just solid as shit on the guitar. It grounds everything else.
Right.
Like if we decide to do some stupid shit, he's just like, motherfuckers, whatever, this is where it's at,
Yeah.
So, but Joe, his ability, if he decided to want to study some other shit, he could smoke anything.
Wow.
He's a great guitar player. I can't even believe how fortunate I am to be in a band with people this talented.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super humbling.
It's funny when like the jazz thing, because I don't know that I necessarily hear how jazz permeates itself within the band so much as like, I mean, I guess because of modern prog, whether it's probably the influence of bands like Animals as leaders, or even like the progger stuff like Intronaut and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that there are technical sort of odd time things that are done more so within the rock world. So that to me is more sort of prog. I've always said that like prog is the fusion of rock, whereas fusion is probably more jazz influenced and sounds jazzier, maybe more dynamic, you know.
Totally.
So y'all sound more prog than fusion or jazz to my ear. That's me.
Yeah, and that I would agree with that too as an assessment. You know, and I think that people also hear, you know, anything fusion, and then, you know, if they're not really listening and into that style, they're just going to associate it with jazz.
Right.
Like if they hear Mahavishnu Orchestra, they're gonna be like, that sounds jazzy. Like if they don't actually listen to any of that shit. Like it's just some way I think people might describe that type of thing.
Right.
So then it just is just a label that gets slapped on. And like I said, it's all good.
Oh man, speaking of Mahavishnu adjacent, I found a Billy Cobham live video that I hadn't seen prior during like the Spectrum tour. So I guess he was touring off that first solo record.
Yep.
And if, you know, he's playing this giant kit, playing these, just playing huge single stroke rolls across the whole fucking thing. And like the band is killing. It's really cool. If you haven't seen it, I'll forward it to you after this.
Please do. I haven't seen the video.
I'm spacing on what it is, but it's like live in Europe somewhere for the Spectrum tour, and it's got horns and everything. It's like a big ass band. In any case,
what a fucking record too, Spectrum, man.
Yeah,
Billy. Yeah, like, I mean, what is there to say?
I know, total monster.
Just insane, man.
And I found that after the fact. I had a buddy mention to me that Mahavishnu Orchestra was killer, and I think I've told it before. Like I couldn't remember what the name was, and this was pre-internet, and I didn't have his number, so I had to wait till I saw him again to be like, "Who was that band you told me about?" Because I'm like telling people what it is. Yeah. This is in the '90s, you know. And people were like, "What?" I was just completely mispronouncing it, so no one knew what the fuck I was talking about. I had to wait literally to see the guy again, to where I'd be like, "What was it?" And he said Mahavishnu Orchestra. I think I wrote it down, and then that's when I went, like, you know, followed up from there, which was just crazy.
Yeah, man, lead you down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Another crazy drummer who I'm assuming you're into, because I saw via your Instagram you were covering a groove of his, is Chris Pennie and the Dillinger Escape Plan.
Man.
And playing that 3 against 4 groove off of
Highway Robbery.
Highway Robbery. That's right.
Yeah. That's the Tool groove, right? Off of
Correct. Eulogy.
Yeah, and Eulogy. And I love how Chris took that and made it his own thing. Because it's just so fucking awesome.
I can play the Eulogy one. The Highway Robbery one is harder to play.
It's not easy.
No.
I think, you know, I've played it many times, but whenever I like put the camera on it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to nail it. Here we go. It still took me like 10 tries to get it like clean one time. It's so hard, man.
Yeah.
But fuck yeah, Chris Pennie. That first time I heard him, I heard 43% Burnt in probably mid 2000s at some point. Mm-hmm. And that's a life-changing moment when you hear Chris Pennie play for the first time.
Absolutely.
And Dillinger as a whole. Yeah. Like just, you're like, oh, I'm different now. It's like hearing Meshuggah for the first time. Like I'm a different person now than I was 5 minutes ago. Holy shit.
Absolutely.
Right. It just changes everything.
If my count is correct, and I believe it is, I've actually reverted back and gone through the shows that I've seen. I believe I've seen Dillinger 15 times.
Holy shit.
Of which I saw them with Chris Pennie easily five or 5+ times, maybe 5-6 times.
Sick.
And yeah, the first time I saw them, they opened up for Mr. Bungle on the California tour, so no one knew anything of them. And I remember at the time, it was such a shock to my system, and they seemed just so volatile and insane on stage. I remember thinking, I can't believe this drummer can play this, but maybe he should get into a band that like people will enjoy, so people can like actually hear him playing.
Yeah.
And then gradually I became sort of fascinated with it. And I was into like heavy-ish music around that time, but Dillinger was so over the top. It was such a blast of like bizarre vocabulary. You know, I've talked to Elliot from Car Bomb, and he calls it the Morse code blast.
Exactly. So true.
I was not ready for that shit. No one was. I mean,
no way, man.
But there were people who were there at that show, and then they saw him. And then the next time they came around, they had done the EP with Mike Patton, and then Greg Puciato had joined the band. So then I saw him a bunch of times with Chris and Greg. You know, Greg was blowing fire.
Oh man,
you know, Mastodon opened up for them in a small club in New Orleans. So it was like.
Shit.
It was just crazy. I was going to see him, and it was like this strange cult of people that were fascinated by this music that was like just a whole new vocabulary and like just intensity,
Yep. I saw him. I got to see Chris with him once. It was like 05 or 06, man. And yeah, it was at like a 800 cap club or so.
Yeah.
And the place was rocking, man. It's just like, dude, I mean, I'll never forget that show. At one point, he's like playing with some tracks. He has on like headphones. His big bald head is like sweating and the headphones are falling off. And he's like playing the shit and fixing the headphones. I'm like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
That is just fucking incredible, man.
Yeah.
So
believe it or not, when I shave my beard, I've had multiple people, friends of Chris, come up to me and tell me that I look like him.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is right. I mean, we're both bald, but that's about it. I didn't think that we looked that much alike, but apparently to no shortage of people we do.
That's so funny, man.
By the way, I also heard you playing. I don't know if the Dillinger groove informed your part in it, but on Synapse Misfire, there's also a 3-against-4 hi-hat thing that you're playing somewhere in there.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
It's the bass drum and the snare pattern is different, but it's still just the 3-against-4 kind of open hi-hat thing. That's a crazy groove, by the way.
Totally informed. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, kind of like it's like Chris Pennie meets like there's a little bit of like Purdy shuffle right hand going on. Like it's 9/8 and 9/16 at the same time.
Oh Jesus!
So, yeah, it's a drum podcast, so we can nerd a little bit, right? But like if you were to just isolate the right hand, it's like it sounds like a shuffle.
Correct.
But then what's happening on the foot and the hand is what makes it a more angular thing.
Right.
So I just was like playing around. Like at first I almost played like a straight shuffle because 9/8 is kind of 3/4. If you're going tick to
right
to 1 to 2 to 3 to dun to dun to dun. But then I decided to put the snare drum in a different spot to just kind of fuck with it a little bit and make it not so obvious. And then that's kind of where that beat came from. But like a little Purdy shuffle shit going on and some other bullshit, but
right on.
It's a fun one. It's hard as shit too. It's like sometimes when we're getting ready to play, I'm like, if I didn't warm up enough or if I had like a beer or two, and I'm like, usually I'm one of the like some dudes can play hammered. I'm like, nope, not me. Can't do it. So I very careful. And we were out on the road a couple of weeks ago, and there was a night I had maybe 2 or 3 before we started, and I was like, fuck, here comes Synapse. I got to play this thing. Shit. But it's cool. It's all good.
So you seem like you're pretty comfortable with displacing / moving around within time signatures. Is that something that you got more so from particular exercises as opposed to like jazz per se? Because I know like practicing with a metronome and moving 8th notes or either which way, that's one way of getting more comfortable with displacement. I feel like that probably informs people more so than maybe like jazz independence, so to speak. I feel like.
Well, you know what? I'm going to credit that one to a lot of like early fusion listening.
Okay.
Honestly, like, so, I listened to a boatload of Dave Weckl when I was young, and he is like a master displacing shit and throwing shit around.
Big time.
Then I got like really big into Gary Novak, who's probably actually like one of my biggest influences in the world.
Interesting. Okay.
Like the Chick Corea Electric Band too. If I don't shout out that album, there's an album called Paint the World by the Chick Corea Electric Band 2, and it's Gary Novak, 23 years old.
Wow.
It's the like most important record in my life.
Really?
It's insane. I am not even kidding you.
Okay.
The playing is so insanely good. It's so ridiculous.
Wow.
Like my friends would like make fun of me if I didn't mention that if they listen to this, because I always talk about that album and him. So that's just some straight fusion shit, man. Some Chick Corea stuff. But
all right.
Anyway, I think that informed a lot of that for me early. Copping some David Garibaldi.
Oh yeah.
A lot of displaced shit there. And I think it just made sense to, and then you hear, Thomas Hake do it on the kit, in a metal context. And I think it helps smooth it out for me to make it heavy, was having like that funky fusion based kind of thing going on first.
Gotcha.
So
super cool. All right.
Kind of put them together,
Nice. Well, going back to when y'all first started out, and then we could talk about this recent run of shows that y'all had. But, when bands are first starting out, you can play just absolute shit gigs sometimes.
Oh, man.
Are there any particularly, like, funny ones? I love asking this because it's the question that always rears or yields, ridiculous answers.
Dude, I think the one that we talk about, which was really funny, and this is like, independent bands going on the road.
Of course.
Never know what you're going to get. We played Oklahoma City at a bar called Your Mom's Place. I'm not kidding.
All right.
Called Your Mom's Place. We walk in, man, got eyeballs looking at us. What the fuck are these guys doing? No PA on the floor, like super gnarly.
Yeah.
Right. And like we're playing, and it's just like people are like, get these motherfuckers out of our bar. What are they doing here?
God.
It's a fun show. We were on the road with some buds of ours.
Yeah.
But anyway, after that, we go to a Roach motel on the side of the road. We're loading gear into a room.
Oh.
There's like people peeking out of doorways and like window shades like pulled to the side. Cop car pulls up. He's like, yeah, you boys look like you ain't from around these parts.
Holy shit.
We're like, officer, we are not. He's like, let me tell you where y'all need to be, because this ain't it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we were gonna get like robbed and stabbed if we had stayed in that hotel that night.
Holy shit.
He's like, y'all need to go this way about 15 minutes and you'll find a good spot. I mean, we didn't know, man. We've never been to Oklahoma City in our lives, right? Where it's like 2 a.m. We're like, fuck, we just need to get a hotel room and sleep.
Right.
That was the most gnarly. That one was, yeah.
That reminds me, I have 2 sons.
Yeah.
I should probably tell them that if they're ever thinking about sleeping in some shithole hotel where they might get stabbed or robbed,
Right.
give me a holler and I'll gladly pay them to go somewhere else.
No shit, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
It's probably worth the forewarning with that one.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the gnarliest.
Holy
we also
shit.
played an Anarchist Convent in southern fucking Chicago,
Really?
which was insanely fucking. It was just as dangerous, but we were too young to know it. But I could talk about that for a long time. I won't. Just to say that, dude, Anarchist Convents, gnarly show spots. That's all I'm gonna say.
Was it indoor or outdoor? What was the venue?
It was indoor. It was in like an old warehouse, man. Like on the 3rd floor. It was truly like people coming and going, like dirty as shit. There's like a dead rat on the floor next to where we were playing. I mean, it was a fun show actually. Like people showed up, and it was just as like grungy and gnarly as you could imagine it would have been. But we were like, in our mid-20s,
Yeah.
didn't know Chicago well. We were in a very dangerous part of Chicago, I come to find out, but we just didn't know it at the time.
Oh man.
We like slept in our van with like the gear right there. Like it's a miracle that somebody didn't just come along and be like, we're gonna have your shit.
Right.
So got very lucky, but yeah. That's the abridged version of that story.
Wow. And I mean, when you say, I guess for just to clarify one further, when you say convent, I think about.
Oh no, sorry, convent. I meant to say commune. Not convent.
Commune. I was like, for nuns?
Commune,
It was like
sorry.
a bunch
No,
of
no, no.
anarchist nuns?
No, sorry. That's a funnier story though. Now it's better.
Let's just stick with that. It was a bunch of fucking anarchist nuns.
I'm gonna keep that one because that's a better version. Anarchist nuns, they fucking party, just so you know.
Absolutely, man. All the sex, all the drugs, all the rock and roll, those crazy bitches.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe they'll blow something up after that. They're the best.
Exactly, dude.
Oh,
Gnarly.
my God.
Good times.
What was the run y'all did recently?
Yeah, we went up to we went from quickly, we were like Chicago over to Cleveland. We played Youngstown, Ohio. We went to Philly for the first time, which was the shit.
Mm-hmm.
We played Brooklyn. Are you in New York, right?
No, well, I left in October 20. We went to Salt Lake City for a year and a half, and now I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah. Oh, you're in Atlanta. Okay. Yeah, man. Went to Brooklyn, hung out with so small aside, Nick Jost, bass player for Baroness.
Yeah.
Used to be the bass player for the Gorge.
Of course. Oh, really?
So that's our connection. I grew up with Nick.
Oh, he's such a killer bass player.
One of my best friends. He's insane.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to throw him in my car and take him to jam sessions when we were in high school.
Wow.
Like, yeah, we would just play, man. He's fucking so killing from the time he was like 14.
Damn.
It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So Nick is like, guys, I'm gonna be in Baroness, so I'm moving to New York. We're like, yeah, of course, dude. Fuck yeah, go, man. But
right on.
so he was there. Seb came out. I love Seb, man. He's like the best. Your interview with him was really entertaining, by the way, because he's fucking hilarious.
He is a funny guy.
And so so that was like the highlight show, man, was being in Brooklyn and playing, and those guys came out. Gina from Baroness came out and checked us out in Philly. That was super like awesome. She's the best.
Nice.
She's so nice. Man, just awesome. So yeah, all in all, we had some van troubles and a bunch of bullshit that everybody goes through on any tour, but like all in all, we didn't lose our ass. That's always good. Came home and we were like, all right, sweet. At 40, it's different than when you're in your 20s, right?
Fuck yeah, it is.
I was out for a week, almost a week and a half, and like I need some time to recoup.
Fuck yeah, you do.
Drinking every night, not like being stupid because you can't whenever you get older, but still nightly drinking and playing this shit, you're tired as hell after 9 or 10 days, man. You know?
Hell yeah, you do.
So, but a ton of fun. So
nice.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, we haven't even reached out or tried to like necessarily book anything. We gotta actually, our record's 5 fucking years old. We got a bunch of riffs, but we need to like really get into the writing room and start putting these riffs together into some jams. Because
nice.
I mean, we actually, if we were smart, we'd have another record written and done by now after this many years.
Right. Yeah.
Still got to make that happen. So
I hear you, man.
That's what's up next.
Well, Jerry, man, thanks for hanging, dude. It was fun talking to you again. Congrats on the record. It's really awesome. I even went back into the previous discography, and y'all been ripping this shit for a long time. So I'm glad y'all are still out there doing it, you know, but
yeah, man. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and thanks for reaching out, man.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Jerry for catching up. Always good to catch up with these young guns fucking ripping out there. Check out their recent record, Mechanical Fiction. It only took them about 5 years to put it out. Shit rips like my pants on Thanksgiving Day, which is just around the corner. Crash, bang, boom.